What's up guys, and welcome to the next episode in the Games I Love series. Now for you guys who have never seen this before, basically I just highlight games that I really love and that bring me a lot of joy to kind of counteract a lot of the negativity out there around certain games. So I'm just going to focus on stuff that I really like and talk about why I love them. So if you haven't seen any of these before, I actually have one more episode up about Sonic Adventure that I posted maybe a week back. So go give that a look if you're interested in Sonic at all. And so we're focusing on another series of Sega titles this week. This week I chose to talk about the Shinobi Trilogy. Now I'm going to give you guys a little bit of background because there's a lot to go over here in terms of not only the past of this series, but kind of like, the content of these games as well, because there's 3 games, so there's a lot to go over. So let's just get started. So here's a little background. I'm going to be focusing on the 3 Genesis titles. So that's The Revenge of Shinobi from 1989, Shadow Dancer, The Secret of Shinobi from 1990, and then 1993 Shinobi 3 Return of the Ninja Master. The Shinobi series actually has 12 games in total in the franchise, spanning over many consoles, and this came out over many years. This goes everywhere from the arcade in 1987 with the title Shinobi. Then the franchise appeared on everything from like the Master System to the Commodore 64, the ZX Spectrum, Sega Saturn, to PS2. They have a newer title on the 3DS, so it's been on pretty much everything, especially once you factor in all the ports. But I'm going to be focusing on the 3 Genesis titles, and I'll give you a little bit of background on the plot. So these 3 games kind of revolve around this iconic Sega mascot, Joe Musashi. According to the game's official booklet, he trained with a group known as the Oboro clan and over time rose through the ranks and became one of the strongest in the Oboro clan. Joe then combats an evil group called the Zed. The Genesis game, The Revenge of Shinobi, picks up right after the Zed returns when they were defeated in the arcade title, and you spend the game pretty much taking them out. The second title in the series, Shadow Dancer, has you fighting against a Union Lizard, which is a cult group type situation. And in the Japanese version, you play as Joe Musashi's son, Hayate, and in the English version, you play as Joe Musashi himself. The third game in the series, Shinobi 3, has Joe fighting against a reformed Zed, which has a super clever name, Neo Zed. And then we can get right into what I feel like makes these games super awesome. So the 3 major things that Shinobi is pretty much known for is 1, the gorgeous pixel art, 2, the precise but difficult, finely tuned gameplay, and then 3, phenomenal music. So let's just start with the graphics. So to say this pushed the envelope for what a 16-bit console was kind of capable of would be kind of an understatement. Now, admittedly, I'm kind of a sucker for 16-bit art, so call me biased or whatever, but I feel like the diversity of environments and detailed worlds, the intricately designed backgrounds, and early examples of what could be described as like particle effects to increase the immersion, really make the case for this being one of the most gorgeous games visually on the console itself. To this day, I think it remains one of my favorite, Genesis games from a visual perspective. Then you can get into the gameplay loop. So the gameplay loop of Shinobi games is addictive. I would say you pretty much move from the left to the right, so it's simple, kind of like a Castlevania, but then it kind of focuses on precision combat and having lightning fast reflex at times to make this game not only kind of unforgiving, but incredibly replayable, because you're going to be dying a lot, you're going to be memorizing enemy spawns and stuff like that, and the more recent example of something like that would be akin to maybe like a Dark Souls, for example. But again, by no means am I saying this like a side-scrolling Dark Souls or anything like that. It doesn't hide behind super lengthy cutscenes or environmental storytelling that you'd see in some more modern games. The kind of meat and potatoes of the game is all in the gameplay. Now lastly, I have to speak about the awesome soundtrack this game has. I have to give a shout out to the 5 composers responsible for the Trilogy's soundtrack. So the first game was done by an absolute legend in the Sega community, Yuzo Koshiro, who helped found the developer Ancient, which is responsible for Streets of Rage and Beyond Oasis, for example. So for you Sega fans, you guys know how much those games mean to the ecosystem. Shadow Dancer, the second game, was composed by Keisuke Sukahara, aka Psychedelic Chung, who is also well known in the retro Sega community, and he did work on games like Outrun 2 and then Virtua Fighter 4, amongst many other games. You could look up his credits. He's pretty, out there. 3 composers are credited for Shinobi 3. There's Hirofumi Murasaki, Morihiko Akiyama, and Masayuki Nagao, and they kind of worked as a group at Santos together. If you haven't heard these OSTs, specifically Shinobi 3, then you're really missing out. These are like prime 16-bit jams. It's like the intense, funky, 90s synth-filled tunes that you pretty much come to expect from like formerly composed Genesis titles. So go listen to it right now if you haven't heard it before. So to kind of like wrap it all up, these games may not be for everyone, but if you value like stylized action, Japanese imagery, 16-bit pixel art, challenging combat, or even side-scrolling adventure games in any capacity, then I would say these games are probably for you, and they're at least worth looking at. If you want to familiarize yourself with the retro Sega ecosystem in any capacity, you gotta stop at Shinobi, and I highly recommend you guys check out these games. They're not the most expensive things in the world, and on top of that, you can find it on a great number of modern consoles. You could even play Shinobi 3 on the Sega Genesis Mini if you would like to play it via HDMI, but obviously there are other means you can go about playing these games. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Again, these are going to be coming out weekly with, various games I like, and I already have my third episode, planned out and what game I'm going for. And so be sure to subscribe and like if you enjoyed it, and then share to other people who you think might enjoy retro content on this channel as well. Till next time, this is Jabril from Neo Vintage Games.